You are listening to WHOA Podcast, coming to you from Gainesville, Florida. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WHOA GNV Podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make you go, whoa. My name is Collin Austin, and my official new co-host
We're calling this official
is
now.
Michael Dees. You guys welcome him to the show. Yay! I need like a little clap.
I did it.
Hey, so let me kind of give everybody a little bit of background on what's going on. You know, Ty has been such a huge piece of helping me get this podcast going. He was in episode 1. If you don't know who Ty is, like go watch episode 1. That was the episode where he and Peyton came in because I was like, yo, I got these new toys, let's play. And we literally recorded an episode just for fun, just to like toy around with the stuff. And I was like, man, that was actually kind of good. Let's release that as episode 1. And then I said, Ty, I was like, you should be my co-host on this thing, man, because you know, we have the same passion, the same vision for Gainesville. And you know, played a vital role in this podcast over the last year, and I'm forever grateful to him for that. But Ty has just got a lot of amazing opportunities coming to him. He's doing he's teaching golf, he's like playing golf, he's traveling all over the world, and I think just the ability to try to get him here once a week is now like too troublesome for him. And
I live here. So.
Yeah, and you live here and you work in this building, and it makes things a little bit easier. But no, I mean, I talked to him last week and he was like, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to keep it up just because of all the stuff. So I'm trying to just even see if I can get him back here just to kind of say bye, kind of give us a little bit of a like, hey, what's been happening over the last couple months? Because I mean, if you haven't watched his travels on Instagram or anything, it's been pretty awesome. But anyway, I just wanted to publicly thank Ty for everything that he's done. For Gainesville, and that he continues to do for Gainesville and through the Best of Gainesville Instagram account. So make sure you go follow Best of Gainesville on Instagram. But for helping me get this baby started and get this baby going, you know, it was fun. So it continues to be fun for me, and I know that he wishes he could be here. But just super excited for all the things that he has got going on. So mad love for Ty Ricarian. So what's going on, Mike? Are you ready to fill those shoes?
Yeah, I mean, like now you got me like I've done maybe 10 episodes now, and now I'm like sweating over here. I'm like, man, there's big shoes to fill. I mean, Ty was awesome, so it's cool to see what he's doing. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be here. Hope my perspective on things offers some good questions, insight, anything. But
yeah.
But
now we're getting ready to head into summer, like big time. This episode comes out when June 10th, so we're like into summertime now.
Yeah, and so this time of year for us, like there's a little bit of team transition. There's team members that are graduating, stuff like that.
Did you have a lot of people graduate?
We had a couple. Yeah. So some new faces. And
then you get like our summer guys, Dan.
Yeah, we get some come back to me.
That's
always fun. I was a come back to me once. So.
Yeah, we have this team member. His name's Daniel, and he comes back for the summer, and he's great. Like he's amazing. Yeah, he's here every summer.
Fantastic tech. Yeah, so. He just comes back and works for the summer, and then it gets to fall, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna go focus on class again. It's like, well, that was fun.
Yeah, cool. Well, dude, I'm excited about this episode. Are you ready to get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me, everybody, world, let me introduce to you our amazing, incredible guest with 6 paragraphs of intro right here. No, I'm just kidding. I was giving Mark a hard time for this intro.
This all morning.
You guys, long intros are difficult for me because I feel like I have to read them first and then like get my mindset for the flow of it. No, but this is really good. So you guys. We have a good friend of mine, Mark Davidson, founder of Tech Toybox Incorporated, a nonprofit focused on teaching individuals how to go from idea to prototype by developing a real prototype for a real inventor. They believe no idea should go untested for the lack of a tool. And he is also the co-founder of Make.Work LLC, a new kind of accelerator with training and resources to enable new companies to manufacture their own product and develop a solid manufacturing process from the start. Mark, what's up, man?
That's a lot of words.
It is. You wrote it. No, that's good, though. I like that. I mean, it definitely explained. I feel like sometimes I need to do a better job of, like, explaining what like why the guest is here and like what they do. And sometimes I'm just like, yo, Mark Davidson's in the house. What up? So what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. We're busy. We're having fun.
Do you guys like slow down when the like summer gets here? No, you're just cranking all the time.
Summers are our busy season. We actually had to cut back. We bring in interns just so they can learn how to build stuff.
Yeah.
And last summer we had almost 30, and that was probably too many. There was a lot. There was a lot of.
You got to manage all of them?
Well, I have a shop manager and a project manager. So yeah, no, I can't do all of that. I got a team.
Cool. Well, you've seen our format a little bit, right? Yep. So like we like to start with like the origin story, kind of take us back. How did you get into everything that you've done over the years and that's led you to this point of having these businesses? I mean, I would love to hear a little bit about it, and then from there I'm just going to ask you a million questions because that's what happens.
Because that's what happens. Yeah, well, when I was growing up, I always thought of myself, I'm not a business guy, I'm a techie, right? I didn't realize what all the stuff I was doing was actually setting me up to run businesses. And got into college and I started having businesses on the side, just constant side businesses, consulting. Graduated, went to grad school, graduated all here in Gainesville. And I started working in labs and always had a business on the side. And so fast forward now, I actually got a job. I started a company right after I graduated, ran that full time for about 4 years, and then at some point, my wife said at the time, she said, "Well, I don't like this income really high one month and really low the next month, and this guy's offering you a job in material science at UF." So I took a faculty position at UF, kept my side businesses going, but and I was at UF, ran a research center. Bunch of grad students and stuff for about 20-some years, 23 years.
Dang. Okay.
And it was kind of a confluence. Good research programs are run kind of like a small business, right? You about every year or two, you sit down and you say, okay, what am I good at? Where are we going? What's the community need? What does the research world need? And you sort of realign. It was during one of those times in probably around 2002, 2003, it occurred to me that a research center that I had built or had helped build, we had shops, we had electronics going, we had the ability to do research, to figure out problems. And I said, every garage startup that I've ever done, what do you have to do? You have to put together a shop. You got to build the prototype. And I've done consulting a lot of times. Like the number one reason that I see early stage garage startups fail, and this is a compilation, but it's happened at least a dozen times that I've seen. Great idea, but they don't know how to build it, right? So what do? They say, well, there's people who do that. So they go out and they spend $20,000 that they don't have getting plans made, drawn up. They've got this vision of what their product's going to be. They now spend another $60,000 or $80,000 with all those plans. They send them all over the world. They get these beautiful parts back. They sit in their garage. They assemble it, and they have that gorgeous box that doesn't work. Right? Why didn't it work? Well, they didn't know the glue was going to turn their lens purple, or that this electronics doesn't work with that software. All the problems you don't know about until you build it. And so my mantra has always been when I work with a company or start a company, build the ugly one first. You just got to make it work, right? You don't need to. That's what you need to do on your own dime, right? Once you have something that's working and you verified a market for it, now you can go find an angel to help you out, get you to the next level, get it to where it's manufacturable. So the problem is, right? Now you're 3 months down the road, $100,000 in debt, and your spouse says that's enough of that. Get a job. And so it happens over and over and over again. And I said, well, we have this center here, this research center. We do research, but we have all the same facilities that we do to support our research. We'll build these prototypes. We've got 60,000 students who half of them are looking for something to pad their resume with, and they want to build stuff. It's needed. We have the resources. I went to David Day, at the time head of OTL, and I said, hey, you've got all these patents sitting on the shelf. I've got a few of them myself. They're sitting there because they don't have a prototype. Throw me a few bucks to buy materials. I'm going to bring in 2 or 3 interns to build a project, and I'm going to give them 3 months. Just build it. Make it work. Not pretty, make it work. Wildly successful. We cranked out a bunch of stuff. There's actually patents that are out there on the market now, being sold now, that have prototypes because of that program at UF.
And some of these are ideas that were put on a shelf, or like these are ideas that they're coming to you guys. They were coming to you guys with.
No, mostly they were at that time. Mostly, probably 2/3, 3/4 of them were patents that UF owned, but couldn't license because they hadn't been proven out to the level that somebody would actually be interested.
Got it.
So, as an example, we worked with back then. We worked with Mike Oken and Kelly Foote, neurologist, neurosurgeon who do deep brain stimulation. They had a problem with the little clamp, the commercial clamp made by Medtronics that holds the lead in place on somebody's skull. They had a couple of problems. They brought me in and said, "Here, watch what our problem is." Went in and watched the surgery. And I said, "Well, we know how to fix that." So we came up with an invention that's still being marketed and has a lot of interest, and it's just a better way to hold the lead for deep brain stimulation. Once the electrode's put into the middle of the brain, it needs to stay where they put it. Yeah. And so we came up with a way to do that. That's the kind of thing that we did. And then we went back to my research center and said, okay, you three, here's some scraps, make something that will show how this works. And we did. Eventually it got to a point where, just with the university is a much more restrictive environment, and we're getting lots of requests from outside the university, which we were meeting, and we were a service center, so we could charge for a company to come in and say, to build something for a company. But the university was kind of shifting their focus and making some changes, and they said, well, we don't really want you working outside the university. And I said, well, that's really where the need is. We need to be working. I'm a Gainesville guy. I'm a UF guy too, but I'm a Gainesville guy in the bigger picture. And I had started thinking this as, what we're talking about is reducing a barrier, dropping a barrier for somebody taking an idea to market. Right, that first barrier is it's the technology valley of death. Right, how do you go from idea to something in your hand that works? And it's where companies fail. It's here's a way that we can not only get them over that valley, but we at the same time we're using 2 or 3 people who want to learn how to do a garage startup, and we're showing them how to do this creative process. And it's not pure science, it's not pure art. There's a creativity aspect where there's an aha moment, just like, an artist would say, oh, I see the art there. It's this weird balance between art and science that is something that can be taught, but it requires experience, just like any skill, right? You need to practice it. And it's scary for somebody who hasn't been in a shop to say, how do I do this? So at that point I started saying, well, maybe we need to spin this out of the UF. And I started the Tech Toybox. Started as a nonprofit because I wanted...
What year was that?
2012 or 13, somewhere around in there. Started in my garage. And like every good startup should, and just started collecting tools. I had a bunch of tools and shop stuff from my businesses over the years. I just started gathering it together and saying, okay, here's how we're going to build this. We'd outsource stuff until we got, if we didn't have the right tool, we'd outsource it. But the main thing is we're interacting with the inventors and we're bringing in people. Hooked up with Doug Jones pretty early. Really love the way that his vision is. And,
yeah, sure.
When when they were negotiating with the city to take over management with the GTech Center, I said, you take it over and I'll move in. And so we've been actually in GTech, and we're about to grow out of that space, I think. We still have tight collaboration with Santa Fe's programs, and so now we've grown to where we're going to be moving in with the Make That Work, which is downtown in the old Discount Hi-Fi building.
Yeah,
and
that's an up and coming area, man, with the Depot Park and the Cade there. I mean, it is looking beautiful. I was there last night.
Absolutely gorgeous, and there's a lot of stuff happening. We actually have 2.5 acres there, and we're going to be
That's awesome.
We're working on developing that property with. So the Make That Work side was the next barrier, right? Trevor and Ty spin chill were one of the inspirations. They tried to manufacture the spin chill locally for a couple of years, and they just couldn't find the talent, and it's expensive. It's expensive to set up.
Sure.
So, again, saw companies, we'd get them to prototype, and they'd struggle. They'd end up manufacturing in China. In spite of the fact, it's actually, for most products, it's cheaper to manufacture in the U.S. now than it is China. Since 2012, those lines crossed, the average. And but if you talk to any of the manufacturers anywhere in the country, and I've spent a lot of time going around the country talking to people, they can't find the people, right? We kind of gave that knowledge away. We said we're not going to make anything anymore, and that knowledge is largely gone, right? We've got a bunch of people. The old manufacturing engineers are gone, right? So, and the other problem is capital, right? It takes, let's call it $2 million to set up a manufacturing line. We're talking about companies with no revenue.
Yep.
Nobody's going to give them $2 million when they have no revenue and haven't established the real market for it. So they can't get started.
Now, is that because people just don't believe, or we're losing belief in old manufacturing processes? Because you say that, and I see these tech companies, I mean, I feel like they will be like, oh, yeah, I need to raise $2 million in this round for this idea for this app that I have. And I feel like that gets funded all the time.
Yeah, it does.
So is it a perception thing?
There is a perception problem, and there are some real barriers, right? This talent.
And when I say all the time, I'm not meaning specifically in Gainesville, but
this is a nationwide problem.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm talking about on the macro. It seems like somebody's willing to throw $2 million at an app versus manufacturing a physical product.
Right, and it's because if you throw $2 million on an app, first of all, most apps it is not going to take them $2 million, right, to get to a product.
Sure,
they're going to get a version 1 earlier than that. $2 million for a manufacturing that's just beginning. You're going to put $1.5 million in equipment, in place, and so there was an interview on 60 Minutes a couple of years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Tim Cook got interviewed, and at one point in the interview, you can look this up, it's online. At one point in the interview, Tim Cook says we can manufacture iPhones cheaper in the U.S. than we can in China. And he says, well, why don't you? He says, I can put every tool and die maker in the country in this room, and it takes 3 football stadiums in China to hold them. So that's the problem, is that, again, I sit on the manufacturing council here for the chamber in town, and every manufacturer in this area that I've met has their number one problem is finding people who have enough training that they won't break the equipment on their first day, right? So it's a nationwide problem. It's one that's finally recognized. I was part of several workshops and the White House workshops on exactly this problem, and it's widely recognized. But there's not a good solution out there, right? We're talking about apprenticeship programs and things like that. That's helping, but what we basically need is shop class, right? We don't do shop class. Half of my equipment in our new facility came out of shop classes that were shutting down. We hit the auctions and say we need a such and such, drive to Pinellas County, come back with some sheet metal equipment. And so those are the problems that we're seeing for companies that really want to manufacture. They want to create those jobs. It's cheaper for them to manufacture. There's lots of hassles with manufacturing in China that you hear all the time. And not just China, it's overseas. That just happens to be the biggest one. But it's and there's only two reasons that I can see that are the barriers, right? This is a theme in my life. Find a barrier, drop it. Find a barrier, drop it. That's what I do. And I kept hearing this from our clients. And I said, we can do something about that. We know how to teach. I love teaching, right? We know how to teach people to do stuff. We need a facility, to teach them on. Well, what better facility than a place where you're manufacturing? And the companies, the startup company, doesn't need that manufacturing line 100% of the time. They're not going to work 3 shifts on that line. They're going to work, 1 shift a week on the CNC to crank out all the parts, and the rest of the time is stuffing them in the box and doing assembly, right, which is handwork. So why do we need a separate line? And so the concept is, and this is what we're building at Make.Work, is let's put a general purpose manufacturing line. Let's put the big high capital equipment in place. We'll maintain it. We'll teach you how to run it. We're very consciously making a distinction. We're not going to build stuff for companies. We're in the business of teaching companies how to build their own product on our equipment. We put in all of the certifications on the line so that the company can come in. Now, instead of raising $2 million, they raise $200,000, and they're selling product in 2 or 3 months. That's a whole different paradigm. I've looked a lot. There's no other facility that's doing this. It's kind of a new thing, so we're kind of stumbling around in the dark a little bit. There's one group in Pittsburgh that friends with the founder who's doing something similar. Came at it from the other direction. She was a consultant with large companies trying to onshore manufacturing, bring manufacturing back. Couldn't find talent. And so there's a facility in Pittsburgh that they've built, very similar to what we're building, where they're training individuals to manufacture product. And they're also working as an incubator as well, so that they'll bring in a small company and help them manufacture their product. So that's kind of the...
So do you see yourself as trying to develop the talent, or just really focusing on bringing people's ideas to life?
It's 2 different missions. That's why it's 2 separate companies, right? The bring the idea to a prototype, that's Tech Toybox.
Got it.
And we're really focused on the education there. The products that we bring in, the projects that we bring in, we look at those as a platform. It's a platform for teaching. They're all real projects, right? There's value for everybody involved here. These companies and individuals are getting their prototypes made for probably 1/10 the cost that it would cost if they could find somebody to do it. It's sometimes you just need it's more of a research program than it is here, draw some plans and build it.
Yeah.
There's always unknowns, right? And part of our motto is part of our mantra is, if you've built a widget and you decide, well, I need a leg on it, we don't want to go back to the drawing board. We don't want to make any new drawings. We want to walk over to the welder, which is right next to us, and weld another leg on. It's not pretty. You're going to get an ugly leg, but it works, right? You've solved the problem, and you've said, now you can take that ugly one and say, okay, how do I make this in a version that someone will buy? And that's our mantra. We don't want to spend, as you know, what kills you in business is time, right? It's taken a long time is money, and you run out of money before you get to a product. And so having that rapid turnaround, which means you have to have all the tools right there. We don't want to ever let an idea go untested for lack of a tool. We want to walk over and do it. So so that's kind of the story. It's a long story, but it's kind of meanders. But it's a story of seeing a barrier for a lot of people. And right now, for the manufacturing side, the make work side, I look at it societally. There's a barrier. We've got, this is one of the highest poverty levels in the country, right? Alachua County is crazy high poverty. Why is that? We don't have any middle class jobs here. Very few. And where those traditionally have been is in the manufacturing sector. So,
I mean, it's interesting because I didn't even say I don't know. I just look at it and I'm like, maybe we're just in a tech age. We're in this age of, all these kids are growing up with tablets in their hands.
Yeah.
And luckily my kids enjoy even going outside and like riding a bike, but I mean, we've seen it even within the scooter dealership I've been doing this since 2004, right? I mean, we used to go, like we'd sell a scooter. We would give them a little bit of training, right? It's like, oh, we bought a scooter. Okay, let's go outside. We just run through the features really quick, spend 10 minutes with them, and then send them on their merry little way.
It's just like riding a bike.
It's just like riding a bike.
Yeah.
And over the years, what I found out, I'm like, I look at Mike and I go, oh shit. I'm like, these kids aren't riding bicycles anymore.
No.
I'm like, the amount of time, that 10-minute, I mean, you're talking, well, we spent 10 minutes with somebody, now turning into an hour and a half physically teaching somebody how to drive a scooter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like changing. And I'm like,
world,
and a lot of parents too, they're like, so you teach them how to do it. I'm like, yeah, I mean, we have like a little lesson that we go through, but listen, when you go buy a car, they don't teach you how to drive the car, right? Like, I mean, they expect you to know how. So, but we like.
That's how you have to focus on safety too.
No,
like
of course. Like,
so it's like,
of course. But I guess what I'm saying is like, we're not making any money on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that time, that's like time spent being where it's like, all right, we're like teaching and training, but it just goes to show that, hey, a lot of the people that we're now selling to never really grew up riding a bicycle all of the time. They were very into technology, and now we're seeing this on a macro scale where like nobody wants to get their hands dirty. Nobody wants to like. I mean, take again, scooter world. Like finding mechanics is very tough sometimes.
It's the same population that we're talking about. Right?
Yeah, it's laborers. I mean, what you talk about shop class and like, I mean, is this like, are we bringing shop class back? Is that a thing still? Is it still happening? Is it like what are we doing to get ahead of this problem? Is there anything happening?
Apprenticeship programs. That's what people are pushing is apprenticeship programs. The problem is how do they decide, right? We used to decide in shop class that I really like this machining, and so you'd go get a job as a machinist, right? We don't give that. We actually teach 2 or 3 times a year for some at-risk youth. We teach a class at Tech Toybox. We call it Intro to Manufacturing. What it really is 4 projects on 4 machines in 4 days. They walk out with something, and we teach them a little bit of milling and some maybe woodworking, electronics, and welding. We pick and choose from a bunch of different topics. And we have kids that have never touched a tool in their life, right? They get on the welder, and we've sent kids over to become welders at the Santa Fe welding program, right? Because they'd never been exposed to it. We used to get exposed to that in shop class. Unless you maybe you had a dad or something that would show you tools or things like that. And you're exactly right with the tech stuff, and that's what we're seeing. But there's this hunger, right? We don't teach people. We don't teach engineers how to build stuff. We teach engineers how to draw stuff that somebody else is going to build. But we've lost the somebody else. There's nobody to build it, and so people talk about, well, we're going to 3D print everything. Well, that's just not going to happen, right? You can't make everything out of foamy yellow plastic, right? It just doesn't work that way. It's a tool. I get asked all the time, oh, you're a prototyping shop. You do 3D printing.
I'm not going to lie. That was one of my notes was about 3D printing.
Of course. It's the number one thing, right? It's like we have somebody that we work with, one of my machinist / artist, says, we have this image that what we're going to do is to just have a bucket of all the atoms around, and a robot's going to go out and pick it up atom by atom and assemble your car. It's not going to happen, right? The Star Trek fabricator or whatever it was is not going to. It's not going to happen in our in the next 1,000 years. So it's
my stomach's growling. Sorry, I don't want it to get recorded on the microphone, so I'm like, let me grab something to eat while we do this.
And what's interesting to us is probably a half to 3/4, depending on the time of year, of our interns are students from UF and Santa Fe who are in engineering or some other technical field who have never touched a tool. They don't know how. They know how to draw stuff. They can CAD something up in a heartbeat. But it's really easy to CAD something up that can't be built. Right? I was talking to a machinist, worked for a big medical device manufacturer for decades. He was getting ready to retire. And we were talking about this exact problem, right? There was nobody going to replace him. They were shutting down their fabrication shop because they're going to outsource everything. Yeah, to who is my question. But he said when a new engineer would come in, invariably, it's stereotypical, but invariably the engineer would come in and with a bunch of CAD drawings and say, build this. And he'd say, his question to them was, do you want me to build that or do you want me to build the one that will work? And this is a guy with 30 years of experience. He had no college degree. He was not an engineer. He was a machinist. But he had the experience, right? And so what his mechanism was that he would settle on, invariably the engineer would, I'm the engineer, you build it like I drew it. And so he would build one like he drew it and one that would work. And, the day that he had to present it and it didn't work, he'd say, well, I built this other one for you that does work. And then there were buddies, right? Then
bailed him out.
Yeah. But we don't teach that anymore, right? Even, I know I look old. I'm not that old. Even when I was in school in engineering here at UF, every department had shops. If you were doing research and you needed a hole in something, you walked down and you drilled a hole. Most of those shops are gone now. There's a few left, but there's very limited access to them, and it's a real problem. It's not that our engineers are going to be machinists. They need to have an understanding of what that process is like, so they can design something that works. They can go down to their tech and say, hey, I heard a bearing going bad over here. You don't want them fixing the bearing because they got other stuff to do, but you don't want them going in and troubleshooting after something's blown up. So we have this strong demand and strong need from these students. They're coming in and they're just eating it up. Every day I have 2 or 3 students that don't have something else to do, and they go over to the welder and they just weld. Welding's fun, right? You get to melt metal. There's sparks going everywhere. It's kind of fun, right? And
that's the same thing around here, man.
Yeah.
Anytime the welder comes out, I get nervous, and everybody else is having a good old time sparking metal.
Yeah, and they know what's possible. That's ultimately the thing, and what's not possible. So, and interestingly, almost all of the interns that go through our program get hired just like that, because of that hands-on experience. They get snapped up.
So, are you the spark that's bringing it all back then?
I hope so. I hope so.
I mean, it sounds like it.
I'm trying to, and the key to that is listening. Right? It's not. I love doing stuff like this and talking about what I've learned, but I've learned it from other people. I learned this by hearing people like Ty and Trevor at Spin Chill saying, I can't find an injection molder that will give me 100 parts.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk to me until I'm at 100,000. And so things like that, in 1990, I could have pointed them to 100 different injection molding companies that would be glad to do 100 parts. And now there's a few, right? And you got to seek them out. And I think that having those kinds of and developing those kinds of skills. Look, there's a big manufacturer, believe it or not, in Williston, one of the largest manufacturers of vacuum hardware for semiconductor manufacturing, and they do. They had to develop their own internal training program. They basically pull people off their lawn crew and say, "Okay, you show up to work on time, and we'll pull you in. We'll teach you how to run a lathe." Because you can't find people that are trained. You can't find machinists. This is every company in this area, and it's nationwide, right? If you're in Chicago, maybe you can find a machinist or two, but most of them are either retired or soon to retire, and so getting those new people in is critical. And no company is looking for somebody who knows how to run their process on their machine. They need to train that internally. Right? It's like you wouldn't take an auto mechanic and throw them on a scooter mechanic without giving them some heads up on the differences. So again, it's the training level is just it's basic shop. It's don't put your finger in the sharp stuff, and here's how you cut a piece of metal, and here's how you cut a piece of wood. And so we're actually setting up an apprenticeship program with CareerSource that is going to start hopefully in the next couple of months. We're working through the background on it, but that's what it is. It's a nationally certified apprenticeship program called Maker Professional. Basic skills on a bunch of tools, and it's designed for. It's not engineering. You don't need any degrees. It's just how do you make one side of a piece of metal square to the other side. And basic stuff, and how do you not break the tool on your first day at work?
Yeah. Walk me through a little bit of the process, because just say like I have this idea for this great new tool that I'm inventing or product I'm inventing.
Yep.
All right, I come and I find you. Then what? Like
So-
how do you start? What's the process?
We sit down.
Does it cost me anything?
It doesn't cost you anything for the first go around. It does cost to have us make it. We got to keep the lights on. And what happens? We sit down. We try and get a really good feel for what the problem you're solving is, what your invention is. Of course, we sign non-disclosures. That's one of the key things about what Tech Toybox does. We make sure that if it's not on a client's website, we don't say it. We don't. So understand the problem. We go back, and as part of the process, we're not marketing experts, we're not intellectual property experts, but as part of the process, we have the interns do a quick search, make sure that you can't buy that same thing on Amazon. And every once in a while, we'll have a client come in and say, well, it's a great new invention, we'll find it on Amazon. And they'll say, well, yeah, but mine is blue. And I would buy the one for $15 on Amazon because it's going to cost us $1,000 to build one. To build one,
Yeah.
Right? This is not a good business model. So we sit down, have that meeting. We go back with our team. Now we understand. We've done it enough times now that we can get a pretty good handle on the cost, what it's going to cost us to do it, and we give a quote. We say, here's what it's going to take. Here's a rough time. The time is always a little flexible. Sometimes we get them early, sometimes we get them late, because you don't know the problems you're going to run into. But generally, we can. I want to say I don't think we've not been able to build something, but I'm sure I'm wrong on that. But pretty much we can. The ones that are perpetual motion machines, we can weed out pretty early and say, we can't build that. But most everything else, if somebody comes and says, can you build it? The answer is yes. So we get a half up front, get down payment so we can buy parts, and then we go to work. And there'll probably be 8 or 10 different interns working on it. We supervise. We have 3 people on our staff, including myself, that are kind of keep everybody going, make sure the tools get put away at the end of the day, and that kind of stuff. But and when we stay in touch with the client as things come up, And at the end of it, we deliver whatever the working ugly prototype is, and a solution. Right? Here's the problems we ran into. I can give you an example. I have one client that's actually on the market now, so we can talk about it.
Okay, cool.
It's called Gut Check Indicators. A very avid bow hunter from Virginia calls us. It says, I have a patent on an indicator for an arrow that will change color if the animal was shot in the gut. And I said, well, that's interesting. How are you going to do that? He said, that's your job. You make one and tell me how you did it. Didn't know how. That was his patent, was an indicator that would tell you if the animal was gut shot. I guess they track them. You have to track it more aggressively, right? And usually the arrow goes through the animals, right? So they pick up the arrow, look at it. So we ended up figuring out some chemistry stuff. We created an inkjet, ink, that we modified at printer, and we printed him 1,000 labels that will change color. He's a good marketing guy. He went to a bunch of conventions, hunting conventions, got deals with major distributors. Took him about a year to find a manufacturer because he didn't want to manufacture it. He's selling them all over the country now. That's gut shot indicators. But that was the process. He came to us and said, here's my patent, here's my idea, run with it.
And how long did that process take?
It took us about 2 months, 3 months, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of typical, right?
Yeah, I mean, it seems fast.
Yeah, we try and keep everything in that 3 months just because philosophically that's about the time you have before your spouse says get a job.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the credit cards start to get maxed and okay, get a job. We're trying to sort of bypass some of that.
Yeah.
And
It's funny.
The vast majority of our projects are, $1,000 kind of numbers. We've done $200,000 projects. We installed a big pilot plant project for removing carbon dioxide from power plant flue gas. It was a demonstration we installed in France, built it here downtown, disassembled it, shipped it to France, went over there for a couple of weeks and installed it.
Wow.
And that company's doing next steps now and in talks with big oil companies trying to sell it into power plants. It's a fantastic technology right here in Gainesville.
It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
How many companies or how many products would you say have come through there in the last few years?
A few hundred.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a few hundred. We're constantly busy. I have a backlog right now. I'm telling people that.
Really?
Yeah, we're 3 or 4 weeks before we can start on other projects.
Okay.
We have and companies from all over the world that come to us, and inventors, and it's been everything like from this pilot plant, the big column that we built. That took 1.5 years to build that and install it. Everything from that to we've made toilet brushes. Somebody said, I have a patent on a different kind of a toilet brush. I'm still not allowed to say what kind it was, but we kept telling them, I don't think this is marketable. It was somebody that this was their dream. They wanted to have a patent and be able to show their grandkids that here's the toilet brush that that I invented. They were never going to sell them, but it was $1,000 toilet brush. That's all right. Made them happy.
Oh man.
We try and talk people like that out of it. Like you can see the picture there. Yeah.
They're like,
But,
no, let me spend this $1,000.
I was gonna say, did they actually think it was going to be marketable, or was this just like a novelty?
They understood that
Okay.
one. But we do get people that think that again, I'm going to generalize. Yeah, but mine is blue.
Right.
Yeah. Do you think that XYZ company, the $1 billion company, if they thought they could sell blue, that they wouldn't be making blue in addition to the red and green ones that they already make? Yeah.
Is there a lot of that? If you build it, they will come type mentality, I guess.
There's some of that, and
It's like, oh, I got this great idea. If I make it, for sure, I'm going to
You don't
sell
realize
millions.
you want it yet because you don't know it exists.
Yeah.
yeah, that's something try and coach people out of.
Yeah.
Do some market research. Actually go talk to people that you think are going to buy it. And this is especially a problem with techies, right? Geeks don't always understand what the world will buy. And I know I'm generalizing, and I've been fortunate. I classify myself as a solid geek, but I've had a lot of feet in the real world and spent a lot of time in selling things and making companies that either worked or didn't work. And so, and to that point, we're not a bunch of just pure manufacturers in the make.work. We're putting artists in there. We've got a couple of artists in there because we want that interaction. We want somebody to say, that's ugly. That phone looks like a brick. What if you just round the corners and put an apple on the back?
Mike, have anything?
I'm still kind of fascinated by like where the problems are. Like I don't know. I'm not the youngest person in this room, but I'm the youngest person that's on air here. And I think about like I grew up with Legos and Tinker Toys and erector sets and stuff like that. And I had Wheel in junior high school where you went around to did the arts class and the shop class and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I also had my parents push me into college. I mean, I don't want to say that unfairly. Like I wanted to go, but not a lot of people are going to trade school anymore or vocational stuff. So it's like, where do you identify like the biggest problem along the way for this lack of people? Is it on the early stages that they're just not putting their hands on things, or is it what the parents have influence on that they're not pushing them down that path?
Yeah, I think it's both of those, and we have a societal problem where we've denigrated that, right? We've said over and over again that the way forward is college, the way forward is college, the way forward is college, and it's not for everybody, right? It's and even now, right, in the last probably 5 or 6 years, there's been a strong push to say, all right, vocational school is great because we've got shortages, right? We've got shortages of people. You can make a really good living as a plumber, right? A really good living. Mm-hmm.
And everybody needs one.
And everybody needs one, right? You can make a really good living as a tool and die maker, right? You can make a really good living as a welder, right? Santa Fe, John McNeely, who runs a lot of their vocational programs, said that he told me a few years ago that every single graduate of their welding program gets hired the day they graduate, right? There's a shortage of welders. You can make good money. You can make $60,000 as a welder. That's not bad living, right? It's not cardiologist living, right. But not everybody's going to be a cardiologist, and welding's fun.
Right? So people just not know that's out there. Like I guess
we're not exposing kids to it as much, and I think they're together, right? We're not exposing them as much because we've said, well, that's for others to do. My kid is going to be a doctor, and it's silly, right? Look who's coming out of UF. How many doctors come out of every graduating class at UF? 0.1% or something. How many lawyers? Another 50% maybe. I don't know.
Right.
But it's not. There's a strong push now to get the message out that these are really good jobs, right? I have a PhD in chemical engineering. But when I look back, the most satisfying job I ever had was as a framing carpenter. I was a framing carpenter for a few years. The most satisfying job I've ever had to this day. And it's actually really hard for me when we're remodeling this building not to get in there with a hammer and it's so hard that I get in there with a hammer and nails every once in a while and got to build stuff. But the shop classes in Alachua County have largely been shut down, right? We've replaced the program at Lofton, the shop class, with robotics. Robotics is very valid, and that's a great program. But we also need people who have been exposed to welding. There's fellows left the area now, but he worked for a company out in Newberry and he was instrumental in getting a shop class back into Newberry High School, and there is a vocational program there now. I'm quite frankly, I'm not sure what the state of it is now, but I suspect it's still going. And every time we run this class that I mentioned before with the intro to manufacturing, it's just simple. Come in and use a tool, right? We're going to be looking over your shoulder to make sure you don't hurt yourself, but come in and make some metal chips, right? Mold some plastic. It's filled, right? There's an eagerness for that knowledge. Even the ones, you always get one or two. This is stupid. I don't want to be here. Right? They get sitting off to the side, and then within an hour, what is that? Is that metal melting? let me try that. Like, yeah, and it's just neat stuff, right? And we're not saying that everybody that comes in is going to touch a tool and be, forever a welder. Right. Yeah, fall in love. But we need to have the opportunity for that. And it goes back to what you were saying, Collin. You can't do that on a tablet, right? And and more we see parents who are putting their kids out and doing hands. Cade Museum is doing a great job with a lot of their camps and classes, and we work really closely with them. They tend to work with the younger kids really, really well, and we take them when they get to high school and put them in a real shop and make sparks. So,
sometimes I wonder if it's more of like, I don't want to say parental pressure, but I'm trying to like think back to when I was a kid, and the thing that you always heard about was, you would go to college and then you're a doctor or a lawyer. Yeah. Right? And now it's like, okay, has that changed? Is it now, okay, you go to college and then you're a computer science engineer? Are you writing code? Like is that the new thing? Is it like where did it shift, I guess? That's kind of how I'm framing it up in my head, is that there's just been this shift to where now it's very, very tech focused, and now it just needs to be brought back around. I mean, I
think it needs to. My mantra in life is balance.
Yeah.
Right. It needs to be a balance. You can't. If everybody in the world is sitting there doing code, who's going to make breakfast?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, seriously. It's like
that's it. Even coders have to eat once in a while.
I think it's a lot of how we define success, though. I mean,
I
can tell my parents actually listen, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm ungrateful or anything. But my mom would tell you that she's not going to be satisfied until I finish my degree. It doesn't matter if I'm a CEO of a company, if I've got lots of zeros in my bank account, if I'm happy, and she's going to feel like she failed as a mom unless I finish my degree. And I don't know where that came from, other than the fact that she didn't have the opportunity to go to college.
Right.
Mm.
Well,
it's because parents start defining their success based off their children's success, right. And that is, I love you, Mom, but that's not what you should be doing.
Right.
It's just not. We should not define. I'm not going to define my success off of my children's success and what I want them to do.
It almost feels like it was an overreach, though. And now at least I think we're looking back at it and being like, okay, maybe we went a little too far down this path, and it's time to go back and look and put value on those vocational jobs and these other things that maybe we were wrong to, or we've seen now that it wasn't the best thing to push people through.
I think that's exactly it. I think it's the pendulum swings back and forth, and it's a question of, if everybody was a coder, half the 3/4 of the population would be unemployed, right? How many coders do you need? And we see that in almost every field, right? For a while there were too many doctors for a while.
Well, and
right?
I guess that's what I'm saying is I think there's just a focus, whether it's right now, I feel like it's heavy tech.
It is.
Forget coder, but just tech in general, right? And that's great. I love living in this tech revolution, if you will. I absolutely love it.
Great tools.
It's incredible. The amount of things that I can do with this device today, this iPhone that I'm holding up, is incredible to me. But I think when we go back to I feel like we've always tried to define other people's happiness, and we'd be like, okay, like, oh no, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna become the doctor or the lawyer, like this is what life has. Now that's shifted to, okay, you're gonna graduate, now you're gonna enter the tech world. Well, no, like maybe if you want to be like a scooter mechanic, like that's a great living, and you can do a lot with that. And given the day and age where this is super limited, like there's a lot of opportunity for you.
Right.
And I think that's where people are missing it. And I can say, like, if my kid wants to be a scooter mechanic, all power to him. All I ask is that I want you to work your ass off so that you're the best damn scooter mechanic on the planet.
Yep.
You know, and not do anything half-assed. So like, that's just like my mentality is that I think we're defining happiness on these. So I don't know, on something that's. I don't know. Do you? Are you trying to? You see, I don't want like people to be defining happiness off of a type of job. I guess like a tech job, a lawyer, doctor, like whatever it is. Like no, like you have to define success for yourself, and if that's, you know, for me, I think it's just being happy and loving what you do. Like if you wake up every single day loving what you do, then that's the right thing to be doing.
Yeah.
If not, then you need a change.
Right. I think that I was just formulating some of this. Had a really interesting conversation with a friend last week on this same subject, actually. And from my viewpoint, I think we've become. I think of it as a superlative society. We want to be. I want the best. I'm not going to be happy until I got the best. Right. I've got a really nice car, but my neighbor has a BMW. And so mine's not the best anymore. So I'm going to have to go and do something I hate, or, you know, take out another mortgage on the house to get the BMW. And well, the BMW isn't going to make you happy either, because now there's a Tesla, right? And I think it takes away from appreciating what you have, right? Being appreciative of where you are today and what you're good at, and being happy being whoever you are. Doing the best you can within that.
Yes, but the biggest problem in what you just said is that we care too much about what other people think of what we're driving.
Yes, that's right.
Like we care too much of like, oh, I have to be perceived as this, you know, really great whatever. And so that's why the BMW is so important, because I care about what you think of me. Yeah. Like that's the world we live in, when really, like, I mean, just so y'all know, like the front bumper of my 2006, I don't even know what year it is, 2006 Honda Civic is like literally zip tied on. Yeah. And I don't give a damn what you think of me. You know what I mean? That thing is paid for. I do not have a car payment.
That's right.
It's got 140,000 miles on it, and I hope it lasts me till 300,000 miles, because I will zip tie every freaking piece back onto that car if I could keep driving it, because I don't give a damn what you think of me.
That's right.
Maybe Mark can get you a clamp for it.
We have some glue for that. Yeah.
But that's just the truth. We get so wrapped up in what other people think that BMW is so important to people.
I think that's exactly right, and we're told that matters, right? That's what our society tells us, is that those things matter. And I can tell you, generalizing, because everybody's just like me, right? The older I get, the less that matters. There are people that I just love to death. If somebody didn't like the fact that I drive a 2002 dented up Explorer with 320,000 miles on it, okay, that's fine. I'm sorry you don't like it, but it works for me. I don't care anymore, and I used to, right? But I got over it, and life's happier not worrying about that kind of stuff. You have to look at things within your own set of values and your own set of priorities, I think.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting conversation for sure.
A wondering conversation.
Social media has a huge part to play in that too. But
speaking to your mic.
Oh.
Speaking your mic, Mike.
I'm trying to be high, because we were talking about my posture earlier, how I slouch, and now I've got all these things going through my mind. But no, I mean, social media has a huge part to play in that constant, like, comparing lives to each other, and the way our brains have evolved through use of social media too. But that's probably a different topic for a different day. But I think that is like a huge part of it. And I do see like people that don't engage that much, whether it's because of age or anything, like they're less likely to care about what everybody else has. And I think that that's fascinating too.
Well, it's funny because, I mean, you're right. This is going in a completely different direction, and we don't have time to like really dive into this, but we will some other time, I'm sure. I recently made a post talking about how the best personal brands are that personal.
Yeah.
Like they're real, they're authentic. The people who actually get on, because social media, especially over the last 15 years, has been very much a like painting the best picture of yourself, right? Like you just said, putting that out there, you put, the best pictures. You're not talking about like the terrible things that are necessarily happening, but yet there's just a few people that do, right? They get on these Instagram stories and they start like telling it how it really is, and they start sharing some of the more emotional, deeper moments of their life, their struggles or challenges or whatever.
It's more authentic.
And boom, what happens? People start to connect. People start, oh my gosh, like I go through this too. People start to actually resonate with the message because it's real and it's authentic, and those people end up building some of the better personal brands. Because they are being real human, they're building human connection. So, but you're right. We could dive. That's something I could totally spend another hour and a half diving into.
The social media king over here.
I mean, I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by people's behaviors and why. I'm fascinated by why people will go and spend all the money on a BMW just to impress their friends.
Yeah.
I'm seriously impressed by it. Like. Or live in a particular neighborhood, just to, or I mean, like you could go on and on and on.
I used to do that, and I can tell you, having done both, I'm really a lot happier not doing that.
I wonder if it's an entrepreneur thing. And the reason I say this is because I would have told you when I was in college, actually with one of my best friends who now lives out in California. He and I looked at each other when we were in college and said, "Yo, dude, when we're 30 years old, we're gonna buy a Porsche." we said that. We're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, sure enough, by the time I was 30, I mean, it would have been a big payment, but like I could have had one.
Yeah.
But when I had made that statement, I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was a college kid that was putting value on possessions, and by the time I was 30, I'm running a company now for several years, and I'm like, the last thing that I'm going to do is put money into into this like automobile where I could now put this money back into my business and fuel the growth of my company. Now I say that, but in like 2000, 2004, 2005,
talk about the hot tub.
The first thing I bought was an $8,000 hot tub when I felt like things were clicking.
I love when that story comes up.
I bought a house, and the first thing I bought for this house was this $8,000 hot tub. Now, and I look at it, and I've said it multiple times, I look back at that and I'm like, damn, that was so stupid. It's like I was so stupid. Because I would have invested, I should have put that money right back into the company and not pulled any of it out. And I've learned that lesson because now, my wife is begging me to bring money home to pay the mortgage. And I'm like, yeah, but I mean, do we really need? I mean, what's the late fee? Like, what's like? Do we really have to pay it this month? Like,
can we get by?
So it's funny because now I try to keep everything in the companies, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's maturity. I'm sure it's growth. As an individual, but I still have multiple
mistakes
friends
along the ways. I don't even think of them as mistakes. It's the lessons you learn, right?
Yeah.
You look back and you say, well, I could have used that $8,000 and would have doubled it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it is something about being an entrepreneur. It's also with being an entrepreneur, it's about being open to those lessons, right? Being open to that. I used to tell my graduate students when I was still at UF that I love to be wrong. And I still have that. I love to be. That's when I learned something. If they would come in, if they just came in and said, you're wrong, well, that's not interesting at all, right? But if they come in and say, you're wrong and here's why, That's really cool. And I still am that way. And it's really valuable as an entrepreneur to be able to say, whoops, that's not working. I thought that was going to work, but I'm wrong. Learn that and say, okay, you have to be able to accept that you're not right about everything, right? And I think that's tied. That same mentality is tied into the, well, do I really need that Porsche? Okay.
The answer is no.
The answer is almost always no. Yeah.
I mean,
it's a toy. It's a nice toy, but it's a toy.
And you're gonna have things that you are passionate about,
Absolutely.
right? Like, I mean, if it's I'm not hating on people who love Porsches or anything. Like, if you love Porsches, great. Like, I just realized that I didn't need to spend that. But there's plenty of things that I could totally see having in my future. Like, I grew up on the water, like my parents had a boat, and it was one of the greatest things that we ever had. It's the best toy, that we had as kids growing up. I could totally see myself having a boat one day. So I'm not saying I'm not going to splurge and not buy a boat one day, but but it's more of the reason, like, why? Like, why do you have it?
It's a personal reason. Or are you trying to impress somebody?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's definitely an interesting, thing to think about, I guess. But anyway, we need to wrap this up. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
If somebody has like an idea that they want to create, I mean, what's the best way? Should they go to a website? Should they reach out to you directly? Like, what's the best way to get it? Like,
Mark at the techtoybox.org.
Okay, and that has the in it.
The Tech Toybox.
The techtoybox.org.
Yep.
And just reach out to you,
You can
and
reach
they
out.
can.
Yeah, we've got a Facebook page. You can reach out there too. Our website is under reconstruction. So
Nice.
it may or may not work when you get there for the next couple of weeks.
All right, cool. Well, again, thanks, Mike. Any last words, man?
I mean, I really wanted to talk about the Game of Thrones coffee cup, but we might not have enough time for that.
Dude, that was okay. Yeah, so that was insane. Real quick, let's get maybe pull some others. I mean, this was like a couple nights ago, technically, because I don't know what today is. Today's May 7th.
Yeah.
We're recording May 7th. I know you guys listening, this is like June 10th when this comes out. But like, all right, so this Game of Thrones coffee cup was left in this shot during the episode this past week, right? And now everybody's like, the first I laugh at Ronald. Ronald's like, oh, you see, like, even the pros, like big time, like experts are like leave a coffee cup in a shot. And I'm
He just
like,
bought himself a giant excuse for the next time he screws up.
and I'm like, dude, this is my perspective. I'm like, dude, do not be fooled. Do not be fooled, all right? Like, this is what we call adding another log to the fire, because there's been so much Game of Thrones talk, right, with the release of the new season. But what better way to keep people just talking and talking and talking and talking about it than leaving a coffee cup in one of the scenes? Right, that is the most. I mean, this is coming from one of your marketing experts here. Like, that is brilliant marketing, is what we call that, Ronald. Marketing. That was 100% intentional. I don't care what anybody says. Like, there's no way that just got missed.
I'm gonna chime in. I don't know if the
Yeah, come over here and chime in. Here, sit on that mic. Hurry! You only got a couple minutes. Yeah, let's chime in. You make excuses
as a
for
filmmaker. If I had that type of show,
this podcast just went a completely different direction, everybody.
It's going
We were
everywhere.
about to wrap up, but no, like,
if I had that type of show, I would respect my show too much to kind of jeopardize it just for marketing. Especially when my show already makes a ton of money. That show does not need more money, right? They're making billions off that show.
I just think
Starbucks-
that it's a marketing ploy.
I don't think there's
Mark?
a number.
Definitely marketing.
You think so?
Big. Thank you.
If I was making a show, the director of the show, if I was the producer and the director, there's no money Starbucks could give me to even jeopardize it just a little bit, my story. There's no...
Do you think Starbucks had a play in it? Or do you think it was just...
Wasn't Starbucks. It was
Okay.
a local coffee
It was a
shop.
local one?
It was.
Yeah, which actually goes even more to the marketing.
I mean, but the cup. It's always about the cup. It looks like a Starbucks cup. Everybody. That's good on Starbucks part because now everybody assumes it's Starbucks, and now Starbucks is benefiting too.
Do you think there's like collateral damage there? I mean, I know a lot of like Game of Thrones purists, and we were talking about it before we started. Like, it kind of ruined.
Are they not going to watch the last 2 episodes, 3 episodes, whatever's left?
You're talking about something though that people really care about in this universe, right? And I joke with Allison. There was that one episode. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but that Ed Sheeran showed up, and she talks about it today about how that ruined the entire series.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And
dude, 90% of the world didn't know. I mean, I could have told you. Like, I don't see Ed Sheeran enough to know. Oh, that's Ed Sheeran.
Yeah,
like, man,
but I'm on that same point. I'm like, is it worth? With that money making so much money, is it worth a local? What number could Starbucks throw at me for me to be like, I'm going to jeopardize my show?
Why was the Starbucks cup sitting in this scene?
She might have been drinking coffee while she was,
and she just set it down.
I hope you know that shot probably took 8 hours to take.
They hit action, and then you're saying in post edit, like editing all, like going through that.
They missed it, man.
They missed it. You're saying they missed it, and they could have just taken it right out. And and all the people who like are in charge of previewing and making sure everything's good, every one of them missed it.
Maybe it was that pass the buck mentality where someone thought someone else would catch it.
Or is this like,
it does go through like,
maybe they did catch it, but it was Saturday night and it was too late to edit it out. Like, the episode releases tomorrow. Like,
I don't know.
It was there on purpose.
It was there on purpose.
Thank you. Thank you. Actually, this would be fun. Okay, so
sounds like an Instagram poll.
Yeah, everybody Instagram. I don't know, Instagram. Hey, okay.
Okay, hold on.
Let's do an Instagram poll right now, Genesis.
Shout out to Jen.
All right, Genesis. Podcast. Are you just recording stories?
Yeah.
Okay, podcast world. We want to know if you think the cup was left inside of the Game of Thrones episode, the coffee cup. We weren't sure if it's Starbucks or not. Mark says no. But was the coffee cup left in Game of Thrones on purpose as a marketing ploy? Hit us up, yes or no. Let us know.
Should someone get a promotion or should someone get fired?
All right, so we just did that for Instagram. Oh, and we're still recording. Okay, so we gotta go. We gotta go. But world, everybody, podcast. Thank you so much for listening, Mark. Thank you again for being here. This was a lot of fun. You guys, appreciate you both.
Thanks to my mom and dad too. I didn't want to say anything bad about them. Love you, mom and dad.
No, mom and dad. You know I love you too. I mean, and I really love this guy and everything he's done for us. So, but I mean. Thanks for listening too, Mom and Dad. You're awesome. But and Genesis, thanks you for all your great social media stuff. And okay, we're out. This is the WHOA GNV podcast, the podcast bringing you businesses and individuals that make it go, whoa. We will see you later. Bye.